What if I told you that every problem you've ever faced, every heartbreak, every financial collapse, every sickness, every sleepless night, wasn't the real problem at all? What if the crisis in your marriage, the recession that crushed your savings, the anxiety that eats you alive, are not separate events, but the same disease wearing different masks? And what if I told you that disease is invisible? It's not in your body, it's not in your bank account. It's not even in the government or the economy. It's in your belief system. Yes, your belief system. The hidden operating code that decides without your permission what you see, what you attract, what you create. You think you're choosing your life, but the truth is, your beliefs are choosing it for you. The invisible prison. Look around. Wars rage, economies crash, families fall apart. People numb themselves with drugs, food, screens. And everyone points fingers, blaming politics, blaming bosses, blaming fate. But the true prison isn't out there. It's in here, inside the mind. Because your beliefs don't just shape your thoughts, they shape reality itself. A country collapses when its leaders believe in greed over compassion. A company rots when its culture believes in exploitation over fairness. A person suffers when their heart believes in fear over love. Every crisis is born in a belief. Every war, every recession, every broken home starts with an invisible agreement someone made with a lie. The cruel trick. And here's the cruel trick. Most of your beliefs aren't even yours. They were injected into you. By family, by school, by culture, by religion, by trauma. You didn't choose them, but they now choose for you. It's like being born into a cage so convincing you don't even see the bars. You think you're free, but every time you try to fly higher, you hit the ceiling of your own unconscious programming. The paradox. And here's the paradox that should shake you awake. The universe, what some call God, Source, the All, is unconditional love. It doesn't punish, it doesn't choose favorites. The sun rises on the good and the wicked, the just and the unjust. So if the source is only love, why are you still suffering? Because you've been running a system of beliefs that contradict love. And the moment your beliefs oppose the nature of the all, life bends into chaos, sickness in your body, collapse in your finances, conflict in your relationships, not because the all is cruel, but because your beliefs are out of tune with reality itself. The urgency, and unless you see it, unless you break free, you will keep repeating the same patterns, another war, another recession, another heartbreak. That's why humanity keeps calling it cycles, but cycles are not nature. Cycles are belief systems that nobody dared to question. And today, right here, right now, I'm going to rip open that cage. I'm going to show you how belief systems run your life and how to break the chains, so that finally you stop living as the prisoner of lies and start living as the instrument of the all, attunement with love, reprogramming beliefs. You've just seen the prison, the invisible cage of beliefs that keeps humanity on repeat. Wars, crises, divorces, addictions, different costumes, same route. So the question is, how do we escape? The first step is not to fight harder. It's not to pray louder. It's not to hustle your way out of chaos. The first step is to understand the all, the source. Because once you truly understand what the all is, everything else begins to align. The nature of the all. Let's strip away the myths. The all is not a punishing father. It's not a distant judge keeping score. It's not divided between good and evil. The all is consciousness itself. It is love, pure and unconditional. And here's the shocking part. In the all, negative emotions do not exist. Hate, envy, resentment, fear, jealousy, these are not divine qualities. They are human distortions, inventions born of the ego. The all doesn't play favorites. The sun rises on the rich and the poor, the believer and the skeptic, the saint and the sinner. Because love doesn't discriminate. And here's the paradox. The moment your beliefs contradict that love, reality bends against you, not because the all is punishing you, but because you are misaligned with the fundamental vibration of the universe, the cost of misalignment. Think about it. If the all is love, what happens when you believe in hate? If the all is unity, what happens when you believe in division? If the all is abundance, what happens when you believe in lack? Your reality warps, your body somatizes, disease appears. Your relationships crack, conflict and betrayal. Your economy collapses, wars, recessions, exploitation. It's not God's will. It's the clash between your belief system and the nature of the all, like trying to swim against the ocean. You exhaust yourself, but the current doesn't change. It's you who must align. The example of the Master. And this is why Jesus was such a scandal in his time. He didn't just preach about the all, he embodied it. He lived as love incarnate, as the spark without distortion. And what happened? He was attacked, rejected, crucified. Because every time someone lives as the all, those who are trapped in fear and power feel threatened. That's why even today, when someone speaks of peace, they're mocked. When someone embodies love, they're exploited. Because to live as the Todo is to expose the false systems of belief that feed on hate and control. The illusion of cycles. You've heard it said, crises are cyclical, that economies rise and fall like tides, that wars are inevitable, that poverty is eternal. But that's a lie disguised as wisdom. Crises aren't natural, they are manufactured by belief systems rooted in fear, greed, and exploitation. When a society believes money is worth more than people, collapse is guaranteed. When leaders believe power is survival, war is guaranteed. When individuals believe competition is the only way, loneliness is guaranteed. Cycles are not fate, they are beliefs on repeat. And until we change the system of belief, the cycle will keep spinning. The power of belief systems. Let's zoom in. What exactly is a belief system? It's the unconscious filter that tells you what is possible and what is impossible. It's the silent script that decides what you deserve, how far you can go, what you can attract. If your belief system says life is struggle, then every opportunity turns into resistance. If your belief system says money is evil, then even when you earn it, you sabotage it. If your belief system says, I am unworthy of love, then every relationship will crack under the weight of that lie. Your reality doesn't argue with you. It simply mirrors what you believe. The shift, becoming an instrument of the Todo. So here's the first solution. Stop being the prisoner of beliefs and start being the instrument of the Todo. How? By reprogramming your system of beliefs to align with love. By allowing the divine spark inside you to take the wheel. That spark is the fragment of the Todo planted in every human being. It's the compass that never lies. But most people ignore it, suffocating it under ego, fear, and conditioning. The moment you let the spark lead, something radical happens. Your problems begin to dissolve, not because life suddenly becomes perfect, but because you're no longer resisting the nature of reality itself. The practical first step. Let's make this real. How do you start? Begin with awareness. Every time you feel fear, envy, anger, pause. Ask yourself, does this emotion exist in the all, or is it just my ego clinging to lies? That simple question breaks the trance. It reminds you that the Todo doesn't operate with hate, and if you want your life to align with the all, you must release what contradicts it. Then replace it, not with forced positivity, but with resonance, gratitude instead of envy, forgiveness instead of resentment, compassion instead of judgment. This isn't moral preaching, it's quantum alignment, because every thought is a frequency. And every frequency shapes reality. The vision of a new planet. Now imagine this, a planet with no wars, no poverty, No exploitation? Impossible? No, because if you can imagine it, you can begin to align with it. The Todo doesn't hold back. The only question is, can humanity upgrade its belief system to match it? And here's the urgent call. The transformation begins inside you, because your reality is a mirror of your consciousness. It cannot be otherwise. The day you stop competing, stop exploiting, stop acting from reptilian fear, and start living as the spark of the all, your personal reality shifts. And when enough individuals shift, the collective reality follows. The transition. So here is the first solution, crystal clear. Understand the all. See that it is only love, and reprogram your system of beliefs to resonate with that love. But before you breathe in relief, know this: the deeper challenge is still ahead. Because even when you align with love, even when you let the spark lead, there's a primitive force inside you that resists. The old brain, the reptilian complex, the hunger for territory, power, control. And unless you confront that, your new beliefs will collapse under the weight of the old instinct. That is the bigger problem we must face next. The reptilian resistance. You've begun to understand the all. You've glimpsed that love is the true fabric of reality, and that your belief system shapes everything you see. You've even tasted moments of alignment, moments where peace, gratitude, and clarity seem to flow effortlessly. But then it fades. The fear creeps back in, the doubt returns. The old patterns, the anger, the jealousy, the endless competition rise again, almost as if they were waiting for you in the dark. And you ask yourself, why does this keep happening? If I understand the Todo, if I know the truth, why can't I hold on to it? Here's the uncomfortable answer. Because there is something older than your beliefs, something deeper than your conscious mind, something wired into your very biology. It's the reptilian brain, the complex R, the primitive code. Long before you had the capacity to dream, to imagine, to love, your brain was built to survive. The reptilian code is obsessed with territory control, fear, power, and competition. It doesn't care about love. It doesn't care about the all. It doesn't care about peace. It cares about survival at all costs. And here's the brutal truth. Even when you reprogram your beliefs, this primitive layer keeps whispering in the background. It sabotages your alignment with fear-driven impulses. It makes you cling to ego, chase control, and fall back into old cycles. That's why societies that preach love still go to war. That's why individuals who meditate still snap in anger. That's why even the enlightened are tempted by greed and power. The reptilian code never sleeps. The collective trap. Now imagine billions of humans, all carrying this reptilian inheritance. Can you see why humanity repeats the same mistakes? Wars are not accidents. They are reptilian impulses scaled to nations. Economic crashes are not mysterious cycles. They are reptilian greed institutionalized in markets. Exploitative systems, endless competition, oppression, genocide. These are not random. They are the complex R running the show. And here's the tragedy. The more advanced our technology, the more dangerous the reptilian mind becomes. Because now it can destroy not just tribes, but entire planets. The illusion of progress. We call ourselves advanced. We boast about progress, science, exploration, innovation. But what good is progress if the operating system is still reptilian? What good is technology if it's used to dominate, exploit, and wage war? What good is abundance if it's hoarded by a few while billions starve? This is why every empire has collapsed. This is why every golden age turned to ashes, because the belief systems may evolve, but the reptilian brain hijacks them. And unless we confront it, every attempt to align with the Todo will collapse under the weight of the oldest code in us. The invisible saboteur. Let's bring this closer to home. Ever wonder why you sabotage yourself? You start a new habit, but quit after a week. You forgive someone, then suddenly feel rage again. You commit to peace, but find yourself in another fight. That's not lack of discipline. That's not weakness. That's the reptilian brain pulling the strings. It doesn't care about your growth. It cares about control. And it will use fear, anger, and doubt to drag you back into its cycle. That's why personal transformation feels like 2 steps forward, 1 step back, because you're not just fighting bad habits, you're confronting ancient programming. The American mirror. Look at modern America. A country with more resources than almost any other in history, yet riddled with anxiety, division, addiction, and endless conflict. Why? Because the reptilian brain is in charge. Politics isn't about service, it's about territory. Corporations aren't about value, they're about conquest. Families aren't about love, they're about control. And the people caught in it suffer endlessly, because when the reptilian brain rules, love gets buried. The spiritual war, make no mistake, this is the real spiritual war, not heaven versus hell. Not angels versus demons. It's love versus the reptilian code, the Todo versus the complex R. One whispers abundance, unity, compassion. The other whispers fear, greed, domination. And the battlefield is not out there. It's in you. Every time you choose fear over trust, ego over spark, power over love, you strengthen the reptilian code. Every time you choose compassion, forgiveness, and trust in the Todo, you weaken it. That is the war behind every unanswered prayer, every broken dream, every repeated cycle, the paradox of knowing. And here's the cruelest paradox. Even when you know the truth, even when you glimpse the Todo, you can still be pulled down by the reptilian brain. Knowledge is not enough. Belief reprogramming is not enough, because beneath it all, the reptilian code will try to hijack everything. That's why even spiritual teachers fall. That's why movements of peace fracture. That's why revolutions of hope decay into tyranny. Because the reptilian brain adapts, it infects belief systems, it bends even truth into tools of fear. The urgency. This is the bigger problem. This is why humanity has been trapped for millennia. This is why your personal transformation feels fragile. Until you confront the reptilian brain, until you transcend the oldest code in your system, you will always be pulled back into the cycle. The Todo whispers freedom. The reptilian brain chains you to survival. And every crisis, personal or global, is the echo of that war. The transition to the definitive solution. So what do? How do we win a war against something built into us? How do we silence the reptilian code without silencing life itself? The answer isn't to fight it head-on, because what you resist persists. The answer is something deeper, something final. It's not just reprogramming your beliefs, it's surrendering the ego completely and letting the spark of the all take full control. That is the definitive solution, and it changes everything. With the all living beyond the reptilian code. We've come a long way. We started with the invisible cage of belief systems, how every war, crisis, and heartbreak is born in the hidden software of the mind. We uncovered the first solution, to reprogram beliefs in alignment with the all, with love itself. Then we exposed the bigger problem, the reptilian code that hijacks even the best beliefs, pulling humanity back into fear, greed, and control. So here we stand at the crossroads. The question is, how do we transcend it once and for all? The answer is not more fighting. It is not resisting harder. It is not trying to kill the reptilian brain. The answer is fusion. What fusion really means? Fusion means surrendering the ego and letting the divine spark take full control. It means you no longer identify with the reptilian impulses. No longer let fear, competition, or control write your story. It means becoming an instrument of the Todo, not just in meditation, not just in spiritual highs, but in every thought, every word, every action. Fusion is living as if the All is breathing through you, because it is. The ego at service. Here's the paradox. The ego isn't your enemy. It was never meant to be destroyed. It was meant to be a servant. The reptilian brain becomes dangerous only when it leads. When it sits in the driver's seat, your life becomes survival, war, and endless cycles. But when the ego bows to the spark, when the reptilian instincts are rechanneled into service of love, suddenly everything changes. Competition turns into collaboration. Territory turns into stewardship. Survival turns into creation. The energy is the same, but the master has changed, living as the spark. So how do you live this way? It begins with trust, total trust, not in systems, not in politics, not even in your own limited ego, but in the all. This trust is not blind, it's experiential. The more you surrender, the more you see reality respond. You forgive and watch old chains dissolve. You give and watch abundance return in ways logic cannot explain. You love and watch enemies turn into teachers. At first it feels like a risk, but soon it feels like the only reality that makes sense. The state of constant prayer. When fusion happens, prayer is no longer words you say, it's the state you live in. You no longer ask God for things because the separation is gone. You are aligned with the Todo, and everything you need flows naturally. It's like tuning into the right frequency. The music was always there, you just weren't resonating with it. Now every thought, every breath, every heartbeat vibrates as a prayer, not petition, but communion, storytelling, the butterfly shift. Think of the caterpillar. It crawls, limited, fragile, bound to the ground, but then it enters the cocoon. Inside, everything it once was dissolves. The old body melts into formlessness. To the caterpillar, it must feel like death. But in that breaking, in that surrender, something new is born. Wings, flight, a new identity it could never have imagined before. That's what fusion with the spark feels like. The ego dissolves, the reptilian brain is no longer in charge, and you emerge with wings, living not as fear, but as love. The vision of a transformed world. Now imagine this on a global scale. A world where leaders no longer act from reptilian greed, but from spark-driven stewardship. A world where corporations no longer exploit, but empower. A world where nations no longer compete, but collaborate. Is it utopia? No. It's simply the natural result of enough people fusing with the all, because reality mirrors consciousness, and when collective consciousness shifts, the planet shifts. The practical daily fusion. But let's bring it back to you. How do you sustain fusion in daily life? 1. Observe the reptilian trigger. The moment fear, envy, or competition rises, pause. Recognize, this is not the all, this is programming. 2. Return to the spark. Place your awareness in the chest. Feel the light of the spark, even if faint. Choose to act from it, not from the trigger. 3. Act as love. Every situation is an invitation. Will you respond as the reptilian brain or as the Todo? The choice, repeated daily, reprograms your life. This is not about perfection. It's about alignment, moment by moment. The collapse of problems. Here's the miracle. When you live in fusion, problems begin to dissolve. Why? Because problems are born from resistance to the all. And once you stop resisting, life stops pushing back. Sickness eases because the body aligns with peace. Finances flow because scarcity is replaced with trust. Relationships heal because love becomes the only frequency you radiate. Does this mean you'll never face challenges? No, but the challenges no longer crush you because you're no longer fighting reality. you're flowing with it. The final paradox. Here's the paradox that terrifies the ego but liberates the soul. When you fuse with the spark, you disappear. Not your body, not your mind, but the old you that lived in fear, greed, and survival. And in that disappearance, you finally live. Because life was never meant to be about survival. It was meant to be about love. And only when the reptilian code surrenders can you experience the Todo fully. The invitation. So the invitation is simple. Stop asking, when will my life change? When will my prayers be answered? When will the world shift? Instead, start living as the answer. Start embodying the Todo. Start fusing with the spark. Because the moment you do, unanswered prayers no longer exist. The cycle of crisis no longer repeats. The reptilian brain no longer rules. Only love remains. Closing transition. We began this journey with the pain of problems, personal and global, born from hidden belief systems. We saw how alignment with the all is the first step, but how the reptilian code pulls us back into cycles of fear. And now we've arrived at the final solution. Fusion with the spark, surrender of ego, and living as love. This is the point of no return. The place where problems collapse, prayers become communion, and your life transforms. Not in theory, but in practice. And now, the only question is, will you dare to step into fusion? A river never forces its way to the ocean. It flows. And in flowing, it always arrives. A seed never questions the darkness of the soil. It breaks, and in breaking, it becomes life. And you were never meant to crawl in fear, to compete in endless cycles, to mistake survival for living. You were meant to fuse, to shine, to become the all in motion. Every unanswered prayer was never silence. It was the river teaching you to flow. It was the seed teaching you to break. It was love whispering, stop asking, start being. Because the moment you live as the spark, the search ends. You are home. Most people will just close this video and go on with their day. But you're not like most people. You've just seen the hidden prison of beliefs that explains why life keeps repeating itself. So here's the deal. If this truth clicked inside you, don't just keep it in your head. Anchor it. Hit like. That's you breaking the first chain. Leave a comment. Write the belief you refuse to carry anymore. That's your declaration. And tap subscribe with the bell on, because this channel is not entertainment. It's the only place reminding you of the laws shaping your reality. Most people won't do it, but if you do, you've already proven you're different. And the algorithm, both YouTube's and the one running this universe, will know you chose freedom.